final question, and then we're going to wrap up.
This is more of a comment than a question, but you already have been introduced to me, but to answer Donnie's question, I'm from Grand Junction. So we've been talking a lot today about what individuals can do, but I kind of want to pull the focus to kind of a higher level. So I've been thinking about the Supreme Court a lot lately. So, I mean, over the last couple decades, the Supreme Court has been a friend to the Southern Freedom Movement and other civil rights movements. But right now, they've been, hearing a case about the Voting Rights Act. Conservatives are arguing that, certain provisions of the Voting Rights Act aren't needed anymore. As you know, from some things happening in Texas and Pennsylvania, it is very much needed. But at the same time, this week, the Supreme Court is hearing cases about the constitutionality of Proposition 8, the Defense of Marriage Act. And given the current composition of the court, the outcome of none of these cases is certain. They could go in ways that we would probably find positive. They could go in horrible directions. So it's when I think about the things that we can all do, but I also think about the fact that we have this kind of people deciding the ultimate constitutionality of what we're doing. I keep going back and forth between the individual level and then thinking about the court itself. And, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment, but
Right.
I don't know if anyone else has thought about that.
Well, what we'll do is we'll let, first, let's give the panelists a wonderful round of applause. We began our discussion and our questions with Gail, and so we're going to wrap up starting with Nikki, and we'll head down. And I want you to think about this because this is about 1963 and forward. And just think about how 1963 opened in Alabama with Governor George Wallace proclaiming segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever. As you wrap up, is this a true statement? Are we moving forward more rapidly, or where are we at as we look back to 63, and what are your visions for the future? Let's begin with Nikki.
We are moving forward, I think. I wouldn't be on the stage if we hadn't taken a few steps forward. But we can't stop. And I think one thing that has struck me about people like John and people like Sarah and people like Gail and Gail's father, Corky, is it's okay to be idealistic. It's okay to speak in terms that some people might consider naive or idealistic. It's okay to care for one another. And I think as long as we continue to do that and to promote that, I think we can accomplish great things.
Great. Sarah.
I think also as, when you're looking at the civil rights movement, and I'm kind of thinking about even the queer community and how we kind of shut up for a while, and we actually helped through that movement because it wasn't really our time. And so even though we're still struggling, those successes actually open up it's like an onion, you have more and more layers. So you kind of get this right, and then you start to see, wait, there's some other things that are wrong, and here's another movement. And that doesn't mean we're failing, it means we're actually succeeding. And it's gonna take time, and there's actually more to it, and we're getting, we're kind of peeling off those layers because we want more and more freedoms, and that's a positive thing.
I agree with Nikki on the care thing. I think it's important. I think back then everybody cared about each other, and they pulled together and they worked hard to get some doors open and get some things done. And I think we can do that and continue to do that, but we need to keep that same concept is help each other, listen to each other and communicate with each other, and definitely educate our children about how that movement was, because that affects where they're going today, because it is history and it is part of their education. And I think if they knew more about that, they would open their minds a little bit more and get away from the marketing strategies that are so huge today and focusing on our youth. So.
Well, I certainly think there's progress, and of course the work is not done. There's still racism, there's still sexism, and so forth, and all the other isms. And I, from my perspective, I watched just in Southwest Georgia, the movement in Albany started first in '61 and inspired the movement in Americus 40 miles away, and in Tifton and Moultrie and Thomasville, Leesburg, Dawson, and elsewhere, just in Southwest Georgia. The movement in Albany also inspired other movements in other parts of the Deep South and the not so Deep South. And that inspired, that fed into the anti-war movement. So it's a matter of, flowers blooming, if you will. So we're certainly making progress. I think part of the problem today is that we don't have Bull Connors to fight. Bull Connor, the police commissioner in Birmingham, who ordered the fire department to hose down, turn powerful hoses on children. And those people were easy to hate. I mean, it was easy for us to come to Denver and say, look, we're fighting Sheriff Chappell, and we're fighting this evil guy and that evil guy. Today, it's much more subtle. The leaders have learned from the civil rights movement, don't be so stupid. Don't give the farm away. Don't give them, the movement, whatever movement it is, so much help. So it's more difficult to fight an insinuating, pervasive, sort of secret, not so obvious evil. And there are also many more issues that people have become aware of. You can't work on everything. I saw a list of demands that the Occupy movement somewhere had drawn up, and there were probably 100 covering any number, 12 or 15 or 20 areas, the environment, the education, economy, and so forth. Well, there are organizations working on all those fronts. Join one. Put yourself on the line, is all I have to say.
As we prepare to bring Donnie forward to tell you about the next steps and the next programming, I want to thank you all, because I believe that in the end, no matter how dark the day may be, good is going to overcome. And we're all a part of that by our presence. It reminds me what Hugh mentioned on my way here about if we didn't believe we were making a change, we would probably be doing something else. And so, sure, there are some difficult issues that we have to confront, but we have already shown that we have the capacity and the ability to do so. And so as you walk away, remember there was this little hummingbird, and there was a raging fire in the woods, and all of the big animals, all of the mighty creatures, they ran off into higher ground. But there was the little hummingbird that went to the lake and filled its beak up and flew over the fire, the raging fire, and dropped a drop of water, and went back and dropped a drop of water, and went back and dropped a drop of water, until all of the mighty ones said, "Are you crazy? What are you doing? You cannot impact this raging fire." And the little hummingbird looked at them and said, "I'm just doing the best I can with what I got." And that's what I think we're all doing. Thank you very much. Thank you for the time.
What a great, I like that. So I want to thank everybody again for coming to Eastern Colorado to continue this dialogue that we started in January. Next month will be April 29th. We're talking about how music and arts can influence and impact the movement. Our featured guest is Rutha Harris, who was one of the original members of the Freedom Singers from Georgia. John's friend as well. And also we have a group out in Denver named Urban Method, who's an a cappella rockapella group, who's going to put a mix on some of those freedom songs, the kind of way they would sound today. We have Leo Tanguma, Chicano muralist, come and show some of his work. A young man from Montbello High School come in and spit some for us. As you know, Montbello has been broken up into 3 schools, so it's kind of way I want to say that you know? Maybe this is not working, this is breaking up schools like this, but we have beautiful talent in these schools. I want to touch on also what Aaron had a beautiful statement about what's happening in the Supreme Court and those kind of things, and it ties in what Brother Jeff said, is that if you think you can make a difference, you can, but you have to be diligent about it, okay? You have to keep dropping and dropping and dropping. Our president said he's going to be transparent. Call him on that. Call Congress. You voted these people in. Senate, you voted these people in. Write, email, call, make their office sick of hearing from you until they do what they're supposed to do, rather than being bought out. So it's up to us. It's not up to someone else. It's up to us. And then you can have somebody else help you along the way.